Welcome back to Season 4 of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Join me, Brad, each week as my guests and I share incredible and powerful sobriety stories. We're here to show sobriety is possible, one story at a time. Let's go. In this episode of the podcast, we have Melissa, who opens up about her upbringing in Appleton, Wisconsin, and how a great childhood led to struggles with alcohol. Despite not encountering drinking in her family, Melissa recounts her early experiences with alcohol, the toxic relationships, and the eventual descent into binge drinking and drug use. Melissa shares her turning point after a series of attempts at sobriety, including several dry Januaries. In February of 2024, Melissa starts to reclaim her life. Her journey from the chaos of addiction to trusting the process. This is Melissa's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. How's it going, everyone? Brad here. Welcome back to another episode. Before we jump into it, I just want to drop a quick reminder about an incredible resource that I offer, which is the Sober Motivation community. Right now, we have a 30-day trial that's going to be going away soon. So if you plug into joining us, you get an app, and there's tons of meetings, community connection. This is really a game changer for people that are wanting to make a difference and stay alcohol free. This is it. Getting connected with other people, sharing your stories, sharing what you're going through, connecting in meetings, connecting in the app, building new relationships, and learning from other people that are on the same path. It really makes all the difference. So many people I talk to all the time, they just do it on their own. And that might work. It's going to take maybe some stumbling, maybe not. But you can really fast track the process by getting involved with the community. So huge invite to all of you that listen to the podcast. Would love to meet you. A ton of people that are fans of the podcast have joined the community, and it's just really great to be able to connect with everybody. So I'll drop the link to where you can access the 30-day free trial down in the show notes, or you can just send me a message on Instagram too, @SoberMotivation, if you have any questions. Now, let's get to this episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got Melissa with us. How are you?
Hey, I am so good, Brad. Happy to be here and share with you today.
Yeah, so glad that we were able to connect and you be interested in coming on here and sharing your story. So what was it like for you growing up?
Okay, so my childhood was pretty nice and simple. I was born and raised in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is the best of both worlds. We have a little bit of city, you drive 20 minutes and you're out in the country. And we have this like crazy drinking culture here in Wisconsin, but when I was younger, I did not see any of that. In my family, if my parents drank, I never saw any of that. I know that my mom's mom, she did pass away in her 60s of pancreatic cancer. And from what I'm told, she was an alcoholic. And then my mom's dad also struggled with alcoholism, but he did end up getting sober. I've never really heard any of those stories. That's just what I know or what I remember. But yeah, growing up it was nice. I have two brothers. My parents were together and my parents are still together. So nothing like too crazy or traumatic in my childhood.
Yeah. Are your brothers older or
So I have a younger brother and an older brother. So I'm the middle.
Oh, okay. The middle. Hey, I'm finding out a lot in my life with my kids about the middle.
But yeah.
What are some of your earliest memories like from growing up too? Because it's interesting. I mean, I share a lot of that same story with you too. Growing up, my parents, like they drank, but I never saw it or never saw them. I never really even noticed it or picked up on it till like later in high school. What are some early memories that you have of growing up? Things were pretty good?
Yeah, things were good. I mean, I don't have anything that stands out as I didn't like that or I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting though, and I'm sure we'll uncover a few things maybe as we go here, but then it's like you hear two different sides, right? Because this is a pretty common story too. And then we go on later in life to struggle with that. But then it's always like from the outside, I feel like people are looking for this, sometimes this big explosive life growing up.
Yeah.
To be, exactly. Oh yeah, that's why we are where we are right now. What's school like for you and everything? Are you a sports fanatic or what?
No, I had a boyfriend in high school, which I guess now that I look back on it. He didn't treat me very well, but I was like so wrapped up in that when I was in high school that I couldn't see what was going on. He was dealing with his own issues at home and his own issues with addiction, hard addiction, but he completely shut me off from that part of his life. So I didn't really know anything about that until after we had graduated high school. And then seeing what the world is, I look back and I was like, oh, okay, that he was really going through some stuff that I didn't know about. I wasn't really into like sports. I was really into having a boyfriend and that thing. And yeah, it was good though.
Yeah. What were your plans for after high school? Where did you go?
I went to a local like 2-year extension college.
Yeah.
And this is probably like so in high school, I didn't drink at all. I didn't get wrapped up in any of that stuff because, like I said, I was like wrapped up in the boyfriend thing and like I would hang out with my friends and stuff. But I saw my brother, he drank in high school, my older brother. And I think I saw how that was like getting him into trouble. And I was like, I don't really want to be like that. It scares me. I was like scared of my parents too, even though I don't think they were actually ever going to do anything about it. So I saw him going down that path and I was like, I don't know if I really want to go that way. I don't know if I like need to go that way. I think you can have fun and do what you want to do and have friends without drinking. So that was the mindset that I had through high school. And then, yeah, once I graduated graduated high school, it was just like, we're off to the races, basically. Like, then me and my high school boyfriend broke up. And so I started hanging out with my older brother more and his friends more. And that's where I got introduced to alcohol for the first time. And it's in true Melissa fashion. The first time I got drunk was just a complete shit show. My parents took me to a wedding of one of my dad's coworkers. And I drank everything. I drank mojitos and wine and mixed drinks. And halfway through the wedding, I was like sitting out on the veranda outside and I just puked all over in front of everybody. And I should have known then, right? Like, what we're going to just take it. It's always going to get taken to the next level. And that was like the first time. I should have been like, let's just not even go there with that. But so that was the first time, the summer after I graduated high school. And then I went, like I said, to a 2-year college. So I still lived at home and then really started like hanging out with my brother, his friends, and then people in college. And like what we did in college, or what we did at least around here, was we just partied. Like we would drink on the weekends, go to parties. Like we were drinking in college probably more days than not. So it's like Thirsty Thursdays, whatever, dollar beer Friday. And we're just going and going with this. And also in college is probably the first time that I was introduced to Adderalls as well. So I take an Adderall and then I drink so then you can stay up longer, and getting introduced to that whole world too. So I spent 2 years there and then I transferred 2 years to a University of Wisconsin, Platteville, which is 3 hours away from where I live. And I transferred there obviously 2 years in. So I would have been a junior at that time. And so I went there like by myself and I just moved into an apartment by myself. I was dating then who my husband is now, but he stayed back here and then I just drove back every other weekend or whatever. But when I lived in Platteville, I'd be like going out to the bars by myself, putting myself in these compromising situations. I remember one night going out by myself. And they would do this deal on Friday. It was like $10 all you could drink or something at one of the bars. Jeez. And I am like pretty sure that I got roofied when I was by myself, like doing that deal one time. So it's scary, but it's not like enough. You're like, oh, I like dodged a bullet there. So we're good. Let's just keep going. Right?
Yeah. Interesting to me how you went from where you were in high school to not drinking. Then all of a sudden now things are really picking up. I mean, what was that all about? How does that happen?
I don't know. I think it was because I just started hanging out with a different group of friends and then I tried it and then I was like, yeah, this is fun. Like it was fun at the time. You're meeting people and you're going to different places and you're like playing drinking games, and it was fun to go out and meet new people and be social. And that was just how we did it.
Yeah. But an interesting part there too is even the first time at the wedding there. I mean, what a place to get started. But how you even notice like that first time taking it too far.
Yeah. And that's how it always was. I think like when people want to party, it's fun to hang out with Melissa because she's going to go to the next level. But if you want to chill, it's buckle up because we're not doing that. There was never like an off switch. It was like I'm going until I'm like too drunk to get home. And I could never not take it that far for some reason.
Yeah, you ended that for some reason. I mean, do you have any insight now looking back about what that was about?
I still don't know. Even when I went through a moderation period, even on the one time I might drink a month, it was just all the way to blackout, even when I would try to moderate it. And I mean, what they say, once you have that one drink, like you don't have control over it anymore. And I think that's what it is. Just don't even start with the one drink because that's just how it escalates. And that's how it always was. It would be like, I would tell myself like, okay, we're going out to dinner. I'm just going to have 1 or 2 drinks at dinner and then we're going to go home. And then I'll literally wake up the next day and be like, what happened last night? Yeah. You'd be like downtown till 2:00 in the morning and then don't remember how you got home. And I started the night saying 2 drinks. And then you're like, dang it happened again.
Yeah. So as you transfer to this new school, it's a new area for you, right? 3 years. So you're getting to know people, going out by yourself.
By myself.
Are you working or anything at this time when you're at school?
Yeah, I worked at the university doing like call center stuff. We like called alumni for donations for the university. So it was very like low stress. Like I was only working a couple nights a week for a couple hours and didn't work on weekends or anything like that.
Yeah.
And how were you down a job?
Yeah. And how were you doing in school?
Initially, the first 2 years, I hated school. I was on academic probation, but I was just not interested in the stuff that we were learning because you have to go back and do all of your general gen eds. And I wasn't interested in that stuff. But once I got to Platteville, I was going for criminal investigation or crime scene investigation. And like that stuff really interests me. So I did really well with those classes, like criminal justice, forensics, all of those classes. So once I graduated, I got into what I wanted to do. It was good. I mean, granted, being there by myself is a lot of morning classes or that kind of thing, but I made it. I made it through it.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds pretty cool though for courses.
Mm-hmm. It was cool. So then I graduated from there and I actually got a job right after I graduated and we moved to the Washington, D.C. area. So I say me and my now husband, then boyfriend. And I worked on a government contract in a forensics lab and we would process evidence from like Afghanistan, like IEDs that were detonated, and we would process them for fingerprints. So we would get like all of this like cell phones and plastic and tape and stuff, and then we would like forensically process it for fingerprints. So yeah, it was really cool. But at this time I was working like third shift in the lab, and like working third shift was just the worst thing for my health. And this is when I also started gaining a lot of weight too, was when we moved to Virginia, because working overnight, it's stressful. Like you're not sleeping properly, you're not eating properly, you're just like overloading on caffeine, sugar, food, all that stuff. This year that we lived out there, it was an awesome experience. And I think we needed that experience to propel us into the next chapter of our lives. We're like, okay, we did that and we do want to live by our family in Appleton. It's a little bit like slower paced in the Midwest than it is out in the DC area. But when we lived in DC, again, this was just like every time we're like just exploring the nightlife and the party life. We would go into the city. So it was like a trek to get into the city. You'd have to drive to the metro station, get on the metro, take an hour metro into the city. And then in DC is like nightclub. So you'd wait outside and then you'd have to pay to get into the club and stuff. And this is like really when I started this like progression of losing my stuff all the time. So I would lose my ID and then we'd be stranded because we can't go into any more bars. And I don't have my ID, and now I can't get into the bar to get my ID. And then I would lose my phone at a bar and then forget about it. And then we'd have to come like all the way back into the city like the next weekend when the club was open to get my phone. So it was just like, it was fun, but it was exhausting too.
Yeah.
So this stuff is just like escalating. Like now I'm losing all my stuff. I gotta spend all this time to try to like figure out where my stuff is in the morning. And I'm probably minimum 50 minutes from the city too. So that's like a whole thing, trying to get into the city with traffic. So I'm just piling on problems for myself.
The drinking is taking up
Yeah.
a lot of time.
Mhm.
Was that a little bit of a different scene for you from
Yeah.
Appleton, nightclubs and all that stuff?
Nightclubs, yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was awesome. I mean, it's like cool to experience that stuff if you ever have the opportunity, but it was just like not sustainable. The expense, like I said, the travel to get out there, the expense, and just like the compromising situations again that you put yourself in. We have to take the metro in the middle of the night, like back to where we started. And like the metro sometimes in the DC area is not like super safe at night. There's a lot of homeless people living down in there and stuff like that. I mean, that's just how it is. It's like putting yourself in another compromising situation. You're just in a different city, different place, different town. So
going through all of this, though, did you ever wonder, because you must have observed other people around you about maybe how they were drinking or stuff, and be like, ever thinking to yourself, like, why am I ramping this thing up every time? You ever think that or no?
I mean, I think I did, but I thought that it was fun, I guess. I didn't think about it at the time, but looking back on it, I think, yeah, I was always like escalating it more than everybody for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fun, but people around me were honestly probably terrified.
They're worried. Yeah, they were worried for you. They were tired of going back to DC to get all your stuff.
Get my stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Did anyone mention anything to you or no?
No.
Yeah.
No, not really.
What about the hangovers and stuff? I mean, are those hitting you hard yet?
I mean, the worst. I had got the worst hangovers like from the get-go, which I think should have also been a sign like, why are you doing this to yourself all the time? And I would ask people around me, like, I'd be like so sick. Can somebody take me to the ER? I think I'm dying. Just head, stomach, everything sore. And other people were not feeling that extreme every single time too. But it makes sense now though, because people were probably not escalating it as far as I was every time too.
Not
It'll
drinking
be like,
as much.
Yeah. And I'll ask my husband, he'll tell me a story about the night before or something. I'll be like, how do you always remember everything? Do you never get so drunk that you don't remember anything? And he's no, pretty much never.
Yeah. So is that
it never added up to me? Added up for me. I'm like, how do you do that though?
How do you
drink and then just remember everything or not have to go so far? It still doesn't make sense to me why.
Yeah.
I can't just chill out.
I don't know. I know. It's interesting though, because it's something that like a lot of people talk about too, is it's like, even from the beginning, a lot of people identify that things were different in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe people around us and stuff like that. So where do you go from here? So you're in DC. You mentioned you were there for a year.
So we spent a year there. Yep. Yeah. The contract that I was on was supposed to last for 5 years, but we finished the work early. So we were all like completely shocked by this. After 1 year, they're like laying us all off. So we had a decision to make. Do we want to stay here and I can try to find something else, maybe in the government contracting field or something like that? Or do we want to go back? And at the time, my husband was just like working in retail, like really struggling to make ends meet, because it's like these are our first full-time jobs and we're like getting dumped into a really expensive city, like really expensive rent. And we're like barely hanging in there as far as like finances are concerned too. So we're like, let's just go back home and regroup. And also at this time, I was like the heaviest that I ever was too. So it's like drinking's escalating, finances are not good. we need to just go home and regroup. So we moved back to Wisconsin. And this was like 2014. And this is when I started my weight loss journey too. I was like, I really want to get this weight off. So I started that whole journey. And that whole journey like prompted me to take a 6-month break from drinking. So this wasn't like, I should probably take a break from this. This was like, I want to get to my goal weight faster. So what can I do to get there? I'm like, checked in with the food. I started like exercising pretty hard, running for the first time ever in my life. I've never done any of this stuff. And I was like, I think if I stop drinking, that's just going to get me there a little bit faster. I didn't have a time frame or anything.
Yeah.
And I had just moved back, so nobody was really like looking to go out or anything. We hadn't like really reestablished friendships or anything like that. So this was like a good time to just focus on what I wanted to do. And then I got settled in here. I worked a couple jobs, wasn't really like into what I was doing. And in the meantime, I was applying for jobs like with the police departments and with the crime lab and stuff like that. And in Wisconsin, you couldn't do civilian forensics work yet for the police departments in Wisconsin at this time. So you had to be like a sworn police officer and then work your way through that. And it was just not really something that I wanted to do. Like I went through a couple of the processes and I just thought, I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to be like pulling people over, and like I didn't want to go through that part of the career to get where I wanted to go. That was like still looking for a job like on the back burner, looking for something to just make some money. So then I started working at Planet Fitness part-time because I was on this health and fitness journey. This would be like a great transition for me to just get going part-time on something and get some money going. And then I started meeting my coworkers there, and then these people drink, and I was like, all right, yeah, let's go out. And then this is like the wedding thing. The first time that I went back to drinking again after that break was like the worst thing ever. Puked everywhere, worst hangover ever. And again, that should have been a sign of like, why are you doing this? And why do you have to go back so dang hard too after such a long break? At this time though, I like drinking was not even like really in my head. I was like, is this what we do here? Like we live in Wisconsin, we're going out. Like that's how we meet people and that's like how we do stuff. So it was like picking up a little bit. It would be like, okay, I go out like one weekend a month. And then it very quickly picked back up to every single weekend again. And then that from there until maybe my first dry January, I don't remember a weekend that I didn't drink that was 2014, for 7 years.
Yeah.
Of every single weekend.
That was just the thing to do on the weekend. Did you drink at home at all or just drink when you went out?
No, I just drank when I went out. So I never drank by myself, and I never like to sit around and drink either. It'd be like, if I'm drinking, we're going to a party, we're going downtown, like we're going somewhere where there's people. So I don't know. I never really sat at home and drank by myself or hid it or anything like that. It was just like to party, basically.
And I've had a couple people on from Wisconsin, and I know a few people, and they all share in line with that story, right? Drinking is just a big thing, right? To do in the culture there. So my guess is here too, as you're going through this, you're going out, you're partying for 7 years, I think you said there.
Yeah.
Like for
I'm
every
looking
weekend.
at like 2014 till maybe 2020 was the next time I took a little break. So 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So 6 years, and you get wrapped up in that. And I think what you just described, that pattern of drinking, is just so acceptable, right? You work hard all week, go out on the weekend and just drink. So it's obviously nobody's going to say anything. That's what a lot of people are doing. And it's just a thing that's okay to do. And that stretch of life is to go out on the weekends. How did you feel about it though? I mean, you're working during the week, and then on the weekend, it's now I'm drinking all night, maybe a couple hours of a good time, but then Saturday, probably not feeling good. Sunday morning,
I'm just out of it
good.
completely. Like it would be like whole day shot. Like I need the whole day to recover. Okay. If not, as I got older, like multiple days. But I didn't think about it. I was like, that was so fun last night. So like that, like when I was still young, didn't faze me, or even I didn't even have the idea of not doing that. Never, literally never crossed my mind. I was like, this is just what you deal with the next day.
Yeah. That's another layer to it now, is that's just what everybody's doing. Like, just go with
Yeah,
the
and
flow.
that's like kind of what I told myself for 10 years. And then I was like, do I have to be doing what everybody's doing though?
Yeah.
If it's not like serving you anymore. And that was the turning point that I was like, maybe I don't have to do this. But so yeah, we go through this whole time. So I was working at Planet, and then I bounced around jobs a little bit. Then I worked in retail for a good bit of time. And I mean, working in retail is awful. This was probably like the most awful 3 years of my life, just complete torture. You're working on weekends, holidays are horrible. And now I don't have off on weekends. So then it's the day that I have off, even if it's a weekday, I'm going and getting drunk on the day off. It's Tuesday. I'm doing my stuff, and then I'm like, I want to get drunk because it's weekend day to me. Like, this is the only day that I have off. So if me and one of my coworkers had off on the same day, we would do this like meatball day where we would go downtown during and like day drink and then bop around all day, like in the summer. And yeah, I remember one time me and her went downtown on one of those like weekdays, and we rode our bikes, I think, and then my bike broke, and then she had to carry both of our bikes back home, and then she like delivered me back to my husband, and he's like, "What the hell?" And I was like, fell down, so like my arms probably scraped up, and I was like, that was so fun, but really it was just like torturing yourself all the time, like falling down, getting hurt, having hangovers, like having anxiety, and thinking that it was fun.
Yeah. How did you feel like internally about where you were at with all of this?
Honestly, I never thought about it.
Yeah. What about what about before in 2014 when you started your health and fitness journey? How was that progressing when the drinking came back on? Were you still working on that?
It was still going. I was still like always super committed, disciplined, and dedicated to like goals that I had set. But I'd never set a goal around drinking because I was just like, that's just not even, it's not even in question. It's not even going to be an option to be put on the table that we're not going to do that. And I never even thought about it as far as how it's affecting my health or how it's impacting my body. Like, I never thought about it, honestly. I think your brain just shuts it off to protect you. So your ego is like protecting you in those situations.
Yeah. From maybe, looking at it and then realizing.
And having to like analyze what's really going on and having to make a change. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, true. I was talking with somebody the other day, and she asked me this question, and I was like, that's like one of the $1 million questions. And she was like, basically, the long story short is, why am I aware in my life that drinking's a problem, but everybody around me, it doesn't seem to bother them?
Mm-hmm.
And it was, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? And it was really interesting to me because I feel like so many of us just wander around, not even really posing that question or not even having that insight or that awareness of ourselves to say, the drinking is not helping us in any way. And I was like, you know what? I think it's a good thing, because I think there are a lot of people that will wander through life and they'll make it to the end and have never really looked at it to say, did I leave anything on the table because I was deciding to drink every weekend or however it is for somebody? So that never popped up for you, maybe until it did.
And that's probably why, right? It's your ego is protecting yourself from yourself. Because you would imagine if you do get all the way to the end of your life and you're like, oh my God, I've wasted so much time. But if you never even think about it, then it's not real. You don't have to face it.
Yeah. So just to stay away from that in a sense. Yeah, that rings a bell too.
It's hard to self-reflect, right? That takes a lot of practice and like realization. And I hadn't developed that yet. And that took many years in the making to like actually start looking at myself and saying, hey, what are you doing? What can you change?
Hmm.
And yeah.
So you mentioned something about a dry January. When does that come into play?
Yeah, I did one in 2020, January 2020. I did one. And I think because I was just like maybe starting to think, I wonder if I could just not do it for a little while.
Yeah.
Not maybe questioning if it's like a problem or not, but I was like, I think I just want to test myself and see if I could do it. And my head was never in, oh, I'm going to do this forever or anything like that. And it wasn't. Like my head was not in the game of, I'm actually going to stop drinking for good. It was like, I'm setting a goal 1 month and I'm going to do it. And I did. And I was like, see, nothing to see here. No problem at all. And then during that month, I'm just like counting down the days, the weeks until this month is over. And then same thing, went back. First time I went back, it was just a disaster. Like the drunkest you're ever going to be. It's always like you go back just so much harder that first time. And so that was 2020. And then obviously we all know that COVID happened. I don't know that my drinking escalated any more than it had before. Now we're just partying at home instead of partying at the bars. And we would have friends over and have house parties every weekend. And we like built a bar on our porch and we're still going to make it seem like we're out at the bars or like downtown. But yeah, 2020, dry January, and then COVID hit. And then I feel like from 2020 until I actually started this moderation business in 2023, it was just going and going. So it would be like falling down, hitting my head. I remember specifically one time and I was like freaking out. I need to go to the emergency room, but I don't want to go because I'm scared, blah, blah, blah. And they're just dumb stuff. And it's so dramatic when you're drinking.
So there are other things popping up for your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like still that same line of drinking too much. But are you blacking out too at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for the most part, it was always like too drunk or too blackout.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy. Like, I think people think it's crazy. It is crazy, right? Like, that you're drinking that much.
Yeah. Did you know? Because I've had people on the podcast, blacking out I did a couple times, but it wasn't often. But did you know, okay, X equals blackout, or was it just?
It would be like different every weekend. So also, I don't think that I can handle my alcohol like the people around me either, because it would be like, what equation got me there? I'm going to do something different. And then that equation would still get me there. It'd be like, sometimes I'd have 10 shots and it would be like, then you would get there. Sometimes it'd be like 2 mixed drinks. I never knew what the equation was going to be. And it never seemed like it was that much to get me there. And then once I was there, I could never keep count then beyond that point. But I would get cut off at the bars often.
Yeah. How many
Maybe like
bars are in Appleton?
Oh God, probably 30, 40.
40. So then you would just go, you could go to
another one. Yeah. Because like our downtown is like all bars. There's probably like 20 bars on College Avenue. So you're just like bopping around down there.
Okay.
You just go to a new one.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I would do that. I'd be just like running off, talking to people, getting people's like Snapchats, talking to strangers, playing the touch tunes, like just acting crazy. Really. I'd be like, go behind the bar and try to make my own drink.
Gosh. Was it scary to you though with blacking out?
Yes, but no, because my husband was always there for the most part. So I knew that he would get me home safe. So it was like a safety blanket. So at this point, 2020, I'm in my 30s now, I think.
How old are you now?
34.
Okay.
So 29 maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So late 20s. I mean, this is stuff that you would see like kids acting like 18, 19-year-old. And I'm late 20s, pushing 30, like acting insane at the bars.
Yeah. Did you pick up on that part though at the time?
Yeah, but I think I just thought it was funny. And that's the only thing you can do, right? If you don't laugh, you'll cry. And that's why I said I think people were like, if you want to party, like call Melissa, but if you got to go out with her and she's going to get drunk, like it might get crazy.
Yeah.
So be careful.
Was that some people share about too a big part of their identity tied to drinking or
Yeah,
how
for
things
sure.
were? I mean, was if I met somebody on the street and was like, "Hey, tell me a few things about Melissa." I mean, is this kind of
Yeah,
maybe one
probably.
thing that would come up? Is
Yeah,
that
definitely at the time. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd be
gotcha.
like, call me if you want to go out and have a good time. But honestly, I don't even know if anyone else was having a good time or if it was just me acting crazy too.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
first time I think I started to like question this was like 2021. So we did dry January 2020 and it's each year we're like maybe putting a piece of the puzzle together. But I asked somebody like out loud if I had a drinking problem. This was like we were at a party or a baby shower or something, and I was drinking there. And one of my brother's friends was there. I don't know if he was a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something like that. And I was like, "Do you think I have a drinking problem?"
Mm.
And I was like trying to like tell him like how much I drink. And then I don't remember what his response was, but I feel like whatever he said, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm in the clear. Okay, I can still hold down a job and it's not really affecting my life that much. So I'm good. So then I probably didn't think about that again for
Yep.
a whole nother year. So, like I said, this is all escalating. So then let's like fast forward to 2022, like the next year. This year I had a goal of doing a half marathon. I set this half marathon goal every year for probably 5 or 6 years, and
Mm.
it was never realistic because there was never going to be a scenario in which I was actually going to be able to get up on a Saturday and Sunday and run like 8 to 10 miles. But, we can all
Yeah.
dream. So I was like training for that, and then we're still partying. And then one night we go to the bars like normal, get dinner. We hop on the bird scooters. The bird scooters are the electric scooters that you can rent.
Yeah.
So they have them like parked downtown for us. And then you just go on an app and then you can pick it up, pay for it, drop it off wherever. And we were just like bar hopping on the scooters. And we were going from one bar to another. And it's after dark and it's pretty cold at this time too. And I'm just like, take off, bat out of hell. I mean, they go 15 miles an hour, I think is the max. But I'm like 15 miles an hour taking off to get to the bar. And I was driving it on the sidewalk and there was uneven pavement on the sidewalk that I couldn't see. And I hit it and just crashed that thing and landed on my hip and broke my hip. But at the time, I didn't know what happened. Like, I don't know if you've ever felt pain, like gonna pass out, tunnel vision, can't hear anything, gonna throw up. Like you gotta feel everything at once. And so my husband was riding behind me and he saw it. And so obviously then he like comes to help me and I'm like just trying to get my bearings back. And obviously it was just like excruciating pain. But I was like, I think I'm okay. Let's just go. Let's just take an Uber back home and see how we feel. And then after being home, for a few hours, like I couldn't move and I couldn't even get to the car. Trying to get from the bed to the car to go to the emergency room was just the most ridiculous thing. But I was like, I think I'm just being over dramatic. I don't know. But we get to the ER and yes, they x-ray it and the doctor came in. He's like, you are going to need an emergency hip replacement today. I was like, shut up.
Wow.
I was like, no. I'm like, I got to go to work on Monday. I can't be like getting emergency surgery right now. This was like a Friday night or whatever. So, yeah, I had to go into surgery. And basically, he's like, you should never run again because you shouldn't be doing that on a hip replacement. So, this all just dawned on me in like the rest of that year. So, this was like April. And I'm like trying to heal, trying to get back into what I was doing. I actually got back into it really quickly. Like I was back in the gym lifting within a couple weeks, like walking and jogging within a month. I mean, I recovered really fast, but then the news of you're not going to run or you shouldn't run again, I had so many goals wrapped around that I just didn't know how to reframe what my goals were because I'm very goal based in life for feeling like I'm accomplishing something. And so that whole summer was just a YOLO summer, is what I took it at. Instead of taking care of myself and saying, take care of your body and you need to heal and get back into it slowly. No, I'm like full blast into the summer. I need to make up for the 1 month that I was like down and out and healing. And this is like really where it escalated. I would say that I like got wrapped up with maybe like a group of people that didn't really align with what my long-term goals were. And this is when I started like bringing drugs and cocaine into the mix of drinking. And I think it's because I'm always trying to up the ante. So it was like, okay, the alcohol, it's doing it, but it's not getting me to that next level. So then I start bringing cocaine in it to amplify this and do the next crazy thing. Yeah. And it's like, I have dabbled in that stuff in the past, but like this summer was like very regularly doing this. And this was like killing me. I'd be like the worst hangovers in the world, worse than the worst ones that I would have from like just drinking, like completely out of it for like multiple days. And so this summer is insane. Like at the time I thought it was fun. I was like, this is so cool. Like we're partying and we're making up for lost time. But really I was just like dying inside and I was like making so many bad decisions and I had like drank and drove my car and it got like a little bit banged up and I was like had no idea even how this happened. And I was just getting so much anxiety from everything that I was doing at this time too. Like I would wake up with so much anxiety of who did I talk to? Did I get somebody's like phone number or Snapchat that I don't know? Or what's on my Snapchat story? I have to delete all of this, delete that, delete all the messages. And it's just escalating. So this summer's crazy. And then this Christmas is like when I feel like it escalated to the worst point of when I just got like really drunk at Christmas. I loved holidays and I just used it as an excuse to drink. And that's just how our family was too. My brothers drank and my parents drank. I mean, no one really took it to the same level as me, but yeah, this Christmas I just acted crazy. I was like playing music, running around in the basement, running around with my nieces and nephews. And then my dad was like, I guess telling me like, you need to calm down, you need to go home. And I was like, okay, I'm going to drive home. And I was flipping him off, I guess, just, yeah. And then of course you wake up the next day and you're like, what the hell did I do and say?
Yeah.
That was like the top of the, the bad decisions.
That was what, Christmas of 23?
No, Christmas of 22.
Christmas of 22.
So yeah.
Interesting, back to where the doctor, I thought for sure the doctor said you're never going to run again. I thought for sure the doctor was going to tell you never need to drink again.
Yeah, no.
Nothing.
And at the time I like convinced myself that I wasn't that drunk. Like I had been more drunk at other times, so I didn't relate it to the drinking. But then once I gave it up, I look back on that situation, I was like, I would have never even been in that situation had I not been drinking. I would have never been on the scooter. We would have never been going to the bar. So it's even if you weren't drunk, it still wouldn't have happened if you weren't drinking.
Yeah. Well, it's so, yeah, I mean, and that's a good point there too. And you could probably look back at your life, just hearing a little bit of it here, when things went south in your life. Obviously, life is always happening. But when I look back at my life and from hearing your story, you could probably relate to this. When things went south in my life, I was drinking or somebody else was drinking. When I wasn't, things were all right. Of course, life happened and there was stuff, but it wasn't to the level of when things went south because of me drinking or other people around me drinking.
Right.
That was always the chaos in my life.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know if addicted is the right word, but I loved the chaos. I loved the noise, because the more noise around me, the more I was drinking, the less I had to live with myself, live with who I was about I had all these hopes and dreams in life and everything else. And this is where I was. Like I can relate to a lot earlier in my life, but relate to your story, right? We're hitting the bars where I'm sneaking off to the bathroom doing cocaine and
Yes.
spending all my money. You know what I mean? Just thinking about always having the conversation with my parents about being short on rent, being this and where's all your money going? I know where it's all going. I'm just blowing all this money I'm making, blowing everything out of the water. And I think in my life, I wanted to fit in so bad. I just didn't care about how much I sacrificed of my own personal beliefs or values or goals or where I wanted to go in life. All that stuff seemed to come backseat to me just going out. When I would go into a bar and you just see, I would just light up like a Christmas tree. I was like, you know what? Everything in my life that's really heavy right now is just left at the door here. And I just knew that there was going to be that escape from myself and all the insecurities and everything in life that I've come up short with up into this point where I didn't feel like I was good enough. When I walked into that bar and I felt the vibe, I was like, I'm home.
Yeah, definitely. And you think those people are your friends too. Like you want to hang out with these people because they give you like that feeling of fitting in or you have a place to go, but it's not real. Like when you stop drinking and you actually start experiencing life, like you see how superficial those relationships really were. They were just really wrapped around like drugs and alcohol.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Try to do anything else with those friends and it'll be the most uncomfortably weird thing,
Yeah,
that I've ever
exactly.
done.
Yeah.
That I've ever done. We weren't drinking. I was like,
It's like you see him out at a regular grocery store and it
like,
feels awkward.
it was so strange. I was like, yeah, that we really,
We need to get a drink here.
yeah, I was like, we really have nothing in common. So after the Christmas,
Yeah.
what happens like internally after that? Because you said that's like the peak of the escalation. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
what do
feel
you
like
realize?
I don't want to face it still. I don't want to look at myself and say I'm the problem. I just want to do what I want to do without anyone else's input. And it took me still a while to overcome that. But I was like very selfish. Like I didn't care how it affected other people. I'm like, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do. So I don't really care what your input or your opinion is. So I was just not addressing that. But in my head, I was like, maybe it's time for another dry January. We're on schedule here, right? January 23. My birthday is January 1st, so we actually usually go on vacations. That January, we were on vacation, and I'm not giving up drinking before a vacation. It wasn't really a true dry January. It was like when we got back from that vacation, then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do 30 days from like when we get back. And it was very similar to the first 30 days where my head wasn't really in it. I was just trying to do it because I just want to get through it. But this time, I think more things started changing, and I actually started seeing like the good effects of it, like sleeping better and having more energy. And started opening my eyes during that dry January. So, still, I just wanted to get through it though. And I was like, I'm not gonna give this up forever. And so I probably made the 30 days and then drank once again and then felt like garbage.
Mm.
And in 2023, this was like my experimentation with moderation. Like, I think I'm going to try to moderate it. I was really like stringing a lot of time together. It'd be like a month and then it would be like 6 weeks and then it would be like a couple of months. And like each time that I put more time together, I was like really seeing like the positive effects that were happening. And I was like journaling about it this whole time as well. And so at that time I had wrote down like that I kept seeing these angel numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 3, 4. And I didn't know what it meant at the time. But when I went back this week and was like reading through my journals, it said that it's counting down to a new beginning, moving forward, fresh start on the right path to achieving goals. So I wrote this down in 2023, and I think that was like propelling me to the actual full sobriety in 2024, but I didn't know what it meant at that time. So I was just like still like following this moderation path and I was stringing some good time together. The summer was harder. And then again, once I was like giving myself that excuse every time, okay, I'm going to drink for this and then I'm going to drink for this. It would be like one thing a month. And then by the end of 2023, it was just escalating again. It was multiple days a month that I was getting drunk. And yeah, the end of the year always seems to like escalate for me until January comes and I'm like, all right, let's start this again.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of January, I had the thought of it would be cool to do a whole year sober, but not possible because I have XYZ. I had my cousin's wedding that I was standing up in. I had all these things that I still wanted to do with drinking. So I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. It's a cool thought, but not for me. But this was the first January that I didn't drink on New Year's Eve because I didn't want to wake up hungover on my birthday again. I've been hungover on my birthday for 10 to 15 years in a row.
Yeah.
And so that January, I was not happy about it, but I really just wanted to get through not drinking and I didn't want to make a big deal about it. And so I did it. And I mean, it wasn't all that fun for me, but I was like, okay, I woke up. I'm not hungover. I feel good. Let's get this year going. And then January 2024, there was still like a few things I feel like that I was like, I want to drink for that. I want to drink for that. And then it was really starting to taper off. And then the last time that I drank was February 24th, 2024. So I don't know. I've grappled with this date, like looking up like what day people pick. This is just the last day that I actually had a drink. And I didn't even count days when I started, like initially started doing it because I didn't actually think it was going to amount to anything.
Did you pick this day? Because this is
No.
a day you pick? Okay.
We were doing a polar plunge that day. And that was like one of the things that I had on my bucket list for that year. And at this point, I'm just over the drinking because I'm seeing like how negatively it's affecting me more than positively. But it's like really still in the culture and it's like in everything we do. So this day I was like, I like declined having any like shots or drinks before and I just really didn't want to go out and celebrate. Like I just wanted to have the moment. Like I wanted to experience like what I had wanted to do. So like we did the whole thing and it was crazy and it was fun and then we like went out and had a drink or two. And I just remember having a drink and then immediately brain switching from having this great time, being with everyone, enjoying everyone's company to, can I have another drink? Should I have another drink? What will happen if I have another drink? Can I have 2? Should I have 3? Then what do we do when we get back? Are we going to go out or what are we going to do tonight? And just sitting there thinking like, I'm completely removed from what's going on around me and in my head, just doing the mental gymnastics about drinking. And I think I said to myself, I'm done with this in my head. It would be better to just not even go there at all than to have to try to figure this out in your head. And then you're completely taking away from the situation that you're in and enjoying everyone's company and celebrating, like having a fun time.
Yeah.
So that was the last time. I think I knew, but I didn't know for sure. And I didn't really know how to go about it. I didn't announce it or I didn't really talk about it with my husband because I didn't want anyone else's input. Like I wanted to do it without knowing what other people thought about it. But it is really hard here because it's so ingrained in the culture. So I would get like super nervous in situations where there was drinking because I didn't know what I was going to say or if people were going to ask me questions about it because I don't even know what I'm doing yet. Like, I don't know what to tell other people. Yeah. And now it's whatever. I just don't drink. But you go through this like getting comfortable with what you're going to do in social situations.
Yeah. So something, and it's interesting too, because I mean, we all get to those moments in one way or another, it comes up, right? And then I think it's all of the other times that we tried to quit or we did this, or it was all these little things that kind of stacked up that brought us maybe to that moment.
Yeah.
to where it doesn't completely make sense. It was like regular day. It was like, hey, we're
Yeah.
hanging out. And then all of a sudden you get this idea of what if I just start to go the other way and maybe put a little bit of effort and energy into this.
Mhm.
And now here you are.
Yeah. And I think initially I was like, I still want to like do the stuff. Like I want to go out to the bars with you guys and do still what we would normally do. And then I'm just not going to drink. And that lasted me and maybe a couple weeks. And I'm like, F this, I'm not wasting my time in the bar. Like I could be doing something way more productive than that. And then
Yeah.
it shapes and forms into a completely different life. Like now I couldn't even imagine sitting in the bar on a Friday night or on a weekend and not like doing something for myself or moving forward in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a terrifying thought, sitting in a bar on a Friday night. God. Maybe for a play, I'll go and hang out for a plate of wings or something, but like I'm
Yeah.
not hanging out all night or
Yeah.
anything.
That's what I'm saying. I'd be like, okay, I'll amp myself up too if we're like going to do something like that. And I can do it for an hour and then I'm just like, I'm done. I'm going.
Yeah.
You can stay if you want to, but I'm like, I'd rather just lay at home and watch TV
Yeah.
like than sit here.
It's so interesting though, and I think you'll be able to relate to this just from hearing you share. There was in Huberman Lab, he on his podcast, he shared something about, I don't know if I'm going to get the wording right, but an early warning sign for if somebody could potentially have a problem with alcohol. You probably heard this.
Mhm.
It energizes you.
Mhm.
Was that something you can relate to?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. And I think you can like I was never like put down or out by it or tired. It was always like, all right, let's go. And yeah,
Which
and
was,
we would go.
yeah. And I was the same way. When I would start drinking, I would come alive. But I know people too. I would say some people call them normies or just like
Yeah.
regular people. They
Yeah,
got
that's
their
like my
thing.
husband. Like I said, it's I just
They,
don't understand the one drink or like how do you just turn it off?
yeah. And for a lot of people too, it puts them to sleep.
Yeah.
I had company over Christmas too, and like they have one glass of wine, and then like I look over and they're sleeping on the couch. I'm like, okay, that's the weirdest thing ever. I don't even know if they finished it. I think that the glass is still on the counter halfway. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but that's weird stuff. But I think people like us, right? That's why we go out, we stay out late.
Yeah.
It's party, it's more, and then it's just you wake up the next day, and after I think we realize, man, we spent a lot of time,
Mhm.
money, days on the couch, maybe eating I used to be my thing, right? The awful waffle. We used to go to Waffle
Eating
House,
everything, yeah. And
eating
nothing would
stuff.
help, right? You're like, I need a soda, I need a water, I need like nothing would ever make you feel better.
Yeah. And it was like, even when I look back, it was like the drinking was like one thing that wasn't helping my life. But there were so many of those other aspects of it too that weren't helping, right? Just the poor food choices, the sleep habits, the financial problems of spending $200 at the bar on a Friday night that I really probably could have used for my rent, maybe in other areas, right? So it was like when I started to step back and look at the bigger picture about how this is intertwined and ingrained in so many areas of my life. What was that like for you, though, as you get this thing going? A lot of people share about sober now, what? Who am I
Yeah.
as a person? And what do I actually like? And how was that for you?
Yeah, so I think the universe like puts things in front of you right at the right time. And I've really seen that happen in the last like few years. And I mean, I had big goals for 2023 and I think I also knew I'm never going to achieve these goals if I don't cut this out cuz I'm not going to have time. I'm not going to have energy. And like just knocking each thing like that off the list was just so much validation of that you're making the right choice. Like I sometimes just blow my own mind with the stuff that like my body is capable of doing. Like in 2023, I finally did the half marathon. I did a sprint try. I did a 100-mile bike ride. We like are renovating our whole entire house. So like all these crazy opportunities have presented themselves where had even 6 months earlier had the opportunity to like turn our duplex back into a single family home presented itself, I wouldn't have been ready for that opportunity. I would have been too scared, not thinking that we wouldn't have had time to do all of this ourselves. We wouldn't have money to be able to do all of
Yeah.
this ourselves. So it's like, it was really just came at the right time that our tenant was leaving. And I think this is the right time. Like, let's make this what it should be. And so you see all of that stuff just laying out in front of you once you're open to it.
Mm. Yeah. It's like the energy changes
Yeah.
about and the opportunities, stuff we never thought possible. It's like
Right.
these opportunities are coming from places like where I always thought, like when I got sober, I was slow to get things together. I
Yeah.
burned basically my whole life to the ground. But when things started coming, I was like, where were all of these opportunities before? And it was like, dude, you weren't ready for them in a sense. I was like,
Right.
a job here, a job there. It's Brad, you got fired from every job you had. So what makes you think that you would have made something else
Yeah.
work? I wasn't prepared. So I love the way I've seen that a lot in my life too. And even when I got sober and I look back, it was like not ideally the way I would have wanted it to play out, but it played out perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. In the moment, it's hard to see what it's setting you up for, but it's just always trusting that it's like elevating you to the next level. Even if you can't see it right now, just trust it.
Yeah. It's when I used to work with people, we would have this thing called like blind trust. And they do it on ropes courses too. You have this thing where you do all these. I don't know if you ever done ropes courses
Yeah,
before,
it
but
scares me too. I
yeah,
think I should put that on my list of
should put that on your
things to
list.
accomplish.
But
Yeah.
it's like all those different activities of like building trust with people, and you have to depend on the team to not hurt yourself, basically. But it's tough. I love that. What would you say to somebody who's struggling with getting or staying sober too? What helped you the most?
I think I would say just trust the process. Like sometimes or a lot of times it's going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes it's going to be amazing, but change literally doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. So just trust that like growth is always happening, even if you can't see it in that exact moment.
Yeah, I love that. It's like I say all the time, right? If I look in the mirror, I can't see my hair grow every day. But if I look back a year later, I'm like, oh, wow, I got a little bit of hair on top of my head there.
Yeah. So like when you're in it, in the thick of it, it's gonna be hard and uncomfortable, but just know that you like will come out of it and you'll be able to look back and say, okay, this was like setting me up for the bigger picture here.
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, it's going to be uncomfortable going into situations. And now you might have to look at making new friends and what else do I like to do for fun? And how am I going to shift my identity from somebody as like the party person? But I see that in your life now, just getting to know you a little bit. And I don't know you a ton, but you've brought that sort of passion I think maybe you had for drinking. It's not where you want it to be, but I think you've brought that sort of elevation to the life you have now too, right? Well, what can I tap into on in this direction? Because there are some of those skills in the lifestyle that we can translate over and help us with where we're headed now too. And you're started a podcast and you're pursuing goals.
Yeah.
And I've been really enjoying watching your Instagram stories of the transition of the duplex to
Yeah,
the new place. And that's wild stuff to
it is.
be
It's
working
like
on.
crazy to just have an idea and communicate that idea and then bring it to life. Like just quitting the drinking makes you think like I can do anything. Like I can renovate a house. I can do a podcast. I like you literally it like takes the veil off.
Mm,
So you can see life and the opportunities so
yeah.
much clearer and it's limitless.
Yeah. Yeah. And it provides us with that confidence to pursue things like I got this. Or if we don't got it, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll just
Yeah.
try something else.
Exactly. Anything else, Melissa, that we missed you want to share?
I feel like just trust the process, right? Like it's tough, but you'll get there.
Yeah. Interesting on that too. One last question for you. When did you find on your journey that you were trusting the process so that you were able to?
I think when I did second dry January and I was like failing, but maybe failing forward because each time I would learn something from it. And like looking back at my journal was when I was really like I would just set a small goal, like not drink for a month and then do that. And so I was like really going through the process, just hopefully knowing that there was something on the other side.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Brad.
Well, there it is, everyone. Another incredible episode. Thank you, Melissa, for jumping on the podcast and sharing your story. As always, everyone, if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget, drop a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. On Apple, write up a short review. It would mean the world just to know you guys are enjoying the podcast and that a few people are still listening. So thank you so much, as always, for supporting the show. And I'll drop Melissa's contact information down in the show notes below for her Instagram. Send her over a note. Let her know that we appreciate her jumping on to share her story. And I'll see you on the next one.